welcome to Free Media. I'm Robby Soave.
And I'm Amber Duke. So much for the Jeffrey Epstein client list. Trump's DOJ shocked many in MAGA world by stating definitively that Epstein did in fact kill himself, and that the department is not in possession of a list of his criminal associates or evidence that he was blackmailing powerful people. Of course, many senior Trump officials, including Attorney General Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, and Deputy Director Dan Bongino, have promised stunning revelations about Epstein for years. Their supporters are understandably having a hard time believing that there's nothing to see here. Caroline Levitt attempted to ease the tension during a recent press briefing. Let's take a look.
So, the FBI looks at the circumstances surrounding the death of Jeffrey Epstein. According to the report, this systematic review revealed no incriminating client list. So what happened to the Epstein client list that the Attorney General said she had on her desk?
Well, I think if you go back and look at what the Attorney General said in that interview, which was on your network on Fox News.
I've got the quote.
Go ahead.
John Roberts said, DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen? And she said, it's sitting on my desk right now to review.
Yes, she was saying the entirety of all of the paperwork, all of the paper in relation to Jeffrey Epstein's crimes. That's what the Attorney General was referring to, and I'll let her speak for that. But again, when it comes to the FBI and the Department of Justice, they are more than committed to ensuring that bad people are put behind bars. They have an operation going on right now called Summer Heat, which has our murder rate trending in the lowest direction in United States history. Their emphasis on violent crime and locking up violent criminals has led to the arrest of 14,000 violent criminals. That's a 62% increase from the same time period last year. So this Attorney General and the FBI Director are committed to putting bad people behind bars where they belong.
Now, President Trump also threw cold water on the idea that there's more to the Epstein story. During a recent cabinet meeting, he became hostile toward a reporter who asked, again, about the client list. Watch this.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Jeffrey Epstein,
gosh.
I don't know her.
Never heard of him. Well, there's obviously a lot to talk about here. I mean, there's basically two possibilities. The Trump administration is covering up for Jeffrey Epstein because, as Elon Musk claimed, Trump is in the Epstein files, which we know he is. I mean, he did take some plane rides from Florida to New York with his family. But the second possibility is that there really isn't that much there, and everybody in the administration really overpromised their supporters. I think it's probably the latter, actually, based on what I'm hearing from people in the administration. There's a FBI official who was incredibly frustrated with the DOJ because they said they finished their review back in April. They knew that there wasn't a client list. They basically wrapped up their end of the investigation and gave it to the DOJ for prosecution. And then Pam Bondi pulls a full Leroy Jenkins and goes, by the way, the client list is sitting on my desk.
Phase one.
Phase reminders. And everyone's like, what the hell, Pam? We don't know what you're talking about. And I actually do feel bad for Dan Bongino especially because I think he cares about this issue very deeply and sincerely and wanted really to bring justice to the victims, and just they don't have what they thought they would find.
Yeah. So in terms of, are they now complicit in some cover-up, or is it just they overpromised? I don't know which it is. On the former part, the only thing I'll say, I probably lean more in your direction as well, but I could imagine them being complicit in a cover-up if what it is that he is an intelligence asset, and the intelligence community has said, no, we are not going to reveal the extent to which his activities were sanctioned by the U.S. government for a legitimate intelligence purpose of gathering information on behalf of Israel, on behalf of the U.S. That's what it was, and we don't want to admit that, so we can't say anything about it. So that is not outside the realm of possibility to me. Or that government officials who, Pam Bondi was herself a Florida was the Attorney General of Florida for the relevant portion of time when Epstein is being prosecuted for various things. They're looking into it. So is it that her or too many other people would look even more embarrassing if this information came out? I think that's also not beyond the realm of possibility.
Well, that's a good point, because Trump's former labor secretary, Alex Acosta, kind of took the fall for the plea deal that he gave Jeffrey Epstein, but he's said in the years since that it was more of a top-down directive where he was basically told by government officials even above him, I believe he was a district attorney or a local prosecutor, that he needed to kind of just wrap this thing up.
Yeah. So that's all still an active possibility to me. I have never been one, even as I am perfectly willing to accept that there's a lot more disgusting stuff about this case, a lot of details or perpetrators who are being concealed from us. I've always been more in the camp of thinking he probably did kill himself, because a lot of the things people say that, how can that be? How could it be that the cameras weren't working? How could it be that no one was watching? I'm like, it's a prison. It's the people die in prison all the time. The staff are like underpaid. They don't care if they like prevent him from dying or something.
And the other thing too is it's entirely possible, and I think this is even more likely, was that someone was kind of paid to look the other way. Like he was gonna kill himself, and no one really cared what happened to him because he was a slimy child molester.
Right. And he was now, this time, he had already gone to prison. He was going to, bad things were going to happen to him in prison. Right. It's not implausible to me that he would, like, kill himself. Good riddance. What else to say about this? That said, this is a tremendous, pie-in-the-face moment for, frankly, for all these MAGA influencers. They have to just feel so embarrassed about this, if they know any shame at all. And I got to name names, DC Drano and Liz Wheeler and some of those other people, God love them, but man, do they look like chumps. And this is the problem when you have a relationship to the people in power that is just adoring fandom, kind of, Benny Johnson style. Oh my God, everything Trump does, they're all so perfect, they're all such heroes, it's all so great. Like they treated you like suckers. They handed you a binder. What was in the binder? I hope the goose from the meme follows these people for all time. What was in the binder? What was in the binder? Nothing. It was information we already had. And they were too fawning over the government, because it's their guys, to even discern that they were being taken advantage of.
Yeah, the binder situation was ridiculous. It was bad. And I think that...
And she wanted to get sorry to interrupt you. She clearly wanted to get a second photo op type thing. She being Pam Bondi by saying it's a part one. She was setting up a Marvel Universe style extended film series of photo op things.
And that's why I think she's probably not long for this administration, because
she effed this up.
There are it's obviously not just her.
Yeah.
But to do the binder stunt, to not have phase 2, to essentially be saying case closed. I mean, there's still some stuff that's probably unsealed at this point. They could be tugging on threads related to Ghislaine, but essentially case closed after touting across Fox News every other day that you're working on the Epstein files.
And they said client list. Again, it's not
she
like,
said client
I
list.
get if she just means there were a lot of files, we gave you all the files. Lots of files had already been released, and the new stuff wasn't different from the old stuff. Okay, but you did buy into the client list language, which suggested perpetrators we were not aware of. Maybe there are no other perpetrators, fine, or maybe there's no other government evidence of perpetrators. And I do, I will see some people who are big into the Epstein story saying, well then who did Ghislaine Maxwell go to prison for sex trafficking on behalf of? Okay, Jeffrey Epstein. So like there's not a mystery there, but maybe there are more people and maybe the government knows about it. That's what they suggested in their framing of the issue.
I think that it's also maybe we were a bit naive, and I'm using the royal we to say like the media and people who really wanted clarity on this case to think that Jeffrey Epstein was gonna write down everybody's name on a literal list.
Right.
Like maybe the FBI and the DOJ needed to dig a little bit deeper into his bank records or his social affiliations, as opposed to expecting a yellow legal pad with a numerical list to be just handed to them on a silver platter.
Yeah, I think that's true. It's fascinating. I saw a really hot take from Michael Tracy, who's a really interesting, journalist and Twitter personality, who actually thinks it's all just nothing. He thinks there is basically nothing there to any of this. He thinks the chief accuser, Virginia Giuffre, was a crazy person who made a bunch of false accusations that she's recanted. She recanted the one against Dershowitz. And it is true that if you say, well, all of these people sexually assaulted me, and they're like, oh, but actually, wait, not that one. I made that one up. Yeah, that speaks to your credibility.
Yeah, she definitely had a lot of issues. There was like
She killed herself, very sad.
Well, yeah, and there was she claimed to have been like hit by a bus shortly
Yeah.
before she offed herself. Very strange character. And then it's a question of like, okay, well, is she crazy because she
Right.
suffered
'Cause
all
it
this
happened to
trauma,
her.
or yeah, I mean,
Normally, I would say all these sensational claims, evidence promised for a long time, no evidence. That makes me downgrade the likelihood the sensational claims are true, on one hand. On the other hand, I would not have believed it, but we know it's true. There was this very rich person sexually abusing underage people who videotaped it, who had Bill Clinton on speed dial, who knew Bill Gates very well, who met Donald Trump, who met all sorts of rich and powerful people, who had association with the British royal family, who went to prison for sexual misconduct with underage girls and somehow got a deal where he could come and go from the prison as you please. They don't usually do that for people
No.
convicted of such things. Got out and then resumed all those associations. That is so weird and itself unbelievable that I think you still can't dismiss the sensational claims on their face as I would under normal
I think so too.
circumstances.
And also you mentioned a couple of possibilities for the cover-up. I think the other one is not even directly Trump related, but let's just say there are in fact this bevy of very high-profile people who could be implicated in some way. Maybe the calculation from the deep state, or the intelligence state as we would call it, who
Yeah.
might now include some members of Trump's cabinet. I'm not saying yes or no to that, but maybe they just think the implications of that, the severity of locking up a bunch of former presidents or ambassadors or other high-profile people would be so shocking to people and cause so much chaos that they just decided it's best to just not do anything.
And maybe they looked the other way. Maybe it's not even that they're involved in the sexual misconduct, which would be, again, a pretty sensational claim. Doesn't mean it didn't happen, but that they turned a blind eye to that stuff because he was gathering information of an intelligence nature. I think that is a theory with it kind of squares it dots all the
Well,
I's,
sure, with like
crosses
the
all
Ghislaine
T's
connections
for
to
me.
Mossad and all of that. Yeah, the intelligence thing
I
is.
can't shake that feeling.
That's sort of the
Yeah, we'll see.
peripheral. Yeah.
Well, and we'll see what the political fallout is because there are a lot of people very mad
People
at
are
the
pissed.
administration
People
over
are
this.
pissed, rightfully so.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Thanks for watching Free Media. We'll have more for you soon.